G'day and welcome to another video on, or by, the Aussie Ideas man. Doing too many of them. Need to get my life back. But anyway, I'm persevering. This one I'm going to bump up the queue. Does Aptera think that crowdfunding will get them to production? And it's the thoughts of the cretin who made this video. Well, the one that I'm evaluating. So let's get into it.
All right, let's talk about finances. All right, before we go into this video, I just want to make sure that everyone understands that I don't have any really extra information that's privy to me that you guys don't have, except for a little bit of a conversation I had with Chris Anthony after our interview a few days ago. But other than that, I don't have any special information. This is just my personal opinion about things, and it obviously does not reflect Aptera's thinking, and it probably doesn't reflect what most of you guys are thinking either.
Let's look at that first thing he said. He said, I don't have extra information from Aptera Motors that the public don't get, except for things that they talked about with Auntie straight after that interview. Now, after that interview, after the discussion with Auntie, he made the claim that he had no extra information. So when he made that claim, he was lying. So I'll replay that, and you go figure if there's any way he could have been telling the truth when he said that.
I don't want to give off this impression that I have insider information or knowledge that makes my opinion better than anyone else's opinion.
In the interview, he got told by Aptera, and I recall hearing it myself, he got told by Aptera that crowdfunding won't get them there to production. So isn't that strange? Why does he make a video that says, does Aptera think that it will get them to production, when he's been told distinctly that they don't think crowdfunding will get them to production? Is he just making videos because he makes something like $1,000 a month from it? And does he regard the fanboys as stupid as Chris Anthony does, and pretty much as stupid as I do? I think he must. He gets told, we're not going to rely on crowdfunding to get us to production. We don't think it'll make it. And then he comes out and says, okay, I can make a video about that. It's abject stupidity.
They realize this. They're very smart. They understand the reality of the situation, and they have another plan. They have another plan to get to production, and the plan is not crowdfunding. There's another plan. I'm not allowed to divulge the plan. I don't know. I only know very vague details of the plan. But again, that was off the record, so I can't tell you what it is. What I can tell you is that I think it's a realistic plan, and I think it's a good plan.
Okay, so this is really weird because my memory goes back, I think it was around the time that they were dealing with USCG, and my memory recollects that Steve Fambro was saying, we have so many avenues to getting the money that we're confident that we'll have the money. And this telling the cretin after the interview, in confidence, there goes that transparency again. I don't think there's any laws against saying who you're going to get money from. But there we have, very recently, Auntie telling the cretin that the money's going to come. What gets me is, if they could get this money, they should have had it in time for them to make the 50 silly trikes by January of next year, or February, whenever the deadline is. If you're confident you have a way to get money, you would have to get that money in time to make the 50 and get the other $20 million or so, rather than get the money when it's way too late and lose that extra $20 million. That's why I think they're just lying again. The cretin will believe it because it keeps his revenue stream up, as well as they get a revenue stream for a little while longer. But I reckon their goose is cooked. I can't believe any company would access money that they knew that they could get when it's too late to do any good.
Or at least, I think it's the best plan of the options they have in front of them. And what are the options that are in front of them? The options that are in front of them are, one, they go IPO. And they can either go IPO on a over-the-counter market, like a small OTC market, or they can go IPO on a major market like NASDAQ or New York Stock Exchange. And I think if they want to be successful via this route, they need to go on a major stock exchange. That's harder, obviously, because they need an underwriter and a bank and all this other stuff. And it's unclear how successful an IPO of a company that has not gone to production yet is. Now, if they had gone to production, I think an IPO would be fairly successful. And IPO is definitely going to bring them money if they decide to go that route. Like Sono did bring money; they got money from that, and Archimoto definitely got money from that. So going IPO does get you some money, but it depends on how successful it is when it hits the market. And I think going IPO will bring in a lot of people because then there is liquidity in there, and there's less fear of having no liquidity, which current investors have basically no liquidity. All right, so the next option is debt financing, and debt.
I'll stop him here before he goes further about options. The IPO option. If they were serious about going IPO, they would not have let that registration with NASDAQ, one I call ANUS, they would not have let that lapse. And for all intents and purposes, I believe they let it lapse. I believe that when they registered, it was just another snake oil stunt to bring in investors. A short term stunt, like all of them. The cretin hasn't even considered that they've let ANUS lapse. Also, getting an IPO is a toss of a coin whether it is an avenue to money or not, which is what Auntie had told him when he said, "We're not sure which way to go with that." So all you're getting is this warped opinion of a guy who said he knows nothing about finance. Now he's telling you what he knows about finance. That's a bit oddball in itself. That's all from me for part one. Until part two, stay safe.